Today's guest is an author, a speaker, a coach, a consultant, and the host of a podcast called Timeout for Mental Health, which is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other platforms. He worked at Fox for 14 years, climbing up his way to becoming a senior vice president of distribution. Welcome to the show, Tim. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Toby. I'm so glad to be with you today.
I'm so happy to be speaking with you right now. And even much more, before we start recording, talking to you and getting to know you better, makes me even much more excited to be speaking with you right now, to even learn more about your story and everything that you've gone through. So thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Mirror Talk. As I said, I would love to really learn more about your dramatic personal story of surviving heart attack, living through severe depressive or disorder, having these suicide attempts and addiction to drugs and alcohol. So is it possible for you to please share this with me?
Sure. I grew up in what I thought was a typical middle class household in America, in the Midwest. And what I didn't understand was that my parents yelling and screaming at me and my brother, them hitting us physically and abusing us mentally and emotionally, I did not understand that that was any different from any other person growing up. I thought that that's what happened in every household. Yet when I left home to go to college, I looked back and did some self-discovery and found out that I was abused. I didn't know that, and that I was carrying around all these negative feelings. My mother was so strong personality that I had to walk around on eggshells. I couldn't tell her everything that was going on in my life for fear that she would get upset and start yelling and screaming at me, or worse, start hitting me. And same thing with my father. And thus I had a lot of negativity inside of me. And as soon as I got to college, I had like a dozen guys from high school that I was at college with at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. And this was in the 70s in the United States. So sex, drugs, and rock and roll, all the way. And these guys introduced me to marijuana, and I'd never smoked before. And I was instantly attracted to it because it numbed all my feelings, my negative feelings about what I was feeling about growing up, which was really the beginning of my depression.
Yeah.
But I didn't know it. I knew that by smoking so much marijuana that my grades went down. I was eating a lot of food. I didn't care about school that much. And I contacted my brother, and I asked him about it, told him I needed help. He really, much like my father, couldn't respond in an emotional way and give me any kind of direction. Now, at the same time, he was going through his own medical stuff, so it was difficult for him to really be present. But I just kept going with this smoking pot and got through school. I went to grad school at Ohio State University. I have a master's degree in sports management and started working in television, and soon started working at a regional sports television here in Southern California, where we televise Lakers basketball and college sports and hockey and things like that. But at the same time, I was just mired in smoking pot before work, lunchtime, on the way home. It was just a mess. And I knew that it wasn't right, but I was asking my doctors for help. I told them everything wasn't right. Some I told the truth, some I tried to hide it from. And thus, it ended up to be 41 years of substance abuse when it came to marijuana. And finally, after seeing about 8 different doctors, I found a psychiatrist who sat me down, and we met for every week for 4 months. And he did research on me. He asked me questions. And finally, after those 4 months, he diagnosed me properly with severe depressive disorder that's reoccurring. And he said he was kind of scared for me because not many people get through it. And I was just in the process of, on my own, trying to get sober from marijuana. And in the first 6 or 9 months of getting sober from any drug or alcohol use, it's very difficult. And there was a time when I couldn't sleep for a matter of days. I was isolating, and I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I couldn't see a reason to continue with life. And I went in the kitchen and took out the biggest butcher's knife I could find, came back to my room and lined it up on my wrist. And, I kind of chickened out. I said to myself, if I could go into the next room and push a button and it was over, I would do that. But going through, cutting myself, or I'm not into guns, so I'd never shoot myself. I just couldn't do it. And at the time I had a dog, and, dogs are very, they're like they say, man's greatest companion. And the dog's love really shifted my thinking, my mindset, such that I didn't want my dog to have to go to a dog pound and then they'd probably kill him. Or I didn't want anybody in my family to take care of my dog because they wouldn't treat him like I did. So that was my justification for not cutting myself. And it happened just about the time when my psychiatrist said, here's your diagnosis, severe depressive disorder that's reoccurring, and here's the remedy that I propose to you. And so for the next few months, we started, and things got better, and he tinkered with medication, and I was still attending 12-step meetings. And after about 6 or 9 months, which is coming up on 9 years next month, I've never felt better in my life. I'm much healthier. I watch my health. The reason I watch my health is because right before I got sober, I had a heart attack. I was in bed, and it was 3 a.m, and I got up, and my head felt like it was in an incinerator. It was so hot. And I went in the bathroom and I splashed some cold water on my face, and I got back into bed. Nothing changed. I was overheating. And I said, I guess that's when I called 911. So I called 911. 3 minutes later, emergency technicians are at my house. They take some tests. They ask if I have a heart condition. I said, not that I know of. And they said, well, you got one now, and we're going to the hospital. 4 hours later, I wake up in intensive care, and my primary care physician is smiling and saying, I'm really proud of you because you got here so quickly. We put a stent in your heart, and there's absolutely 0 heart damage.
Wow, that's great.
Which is a total miracle. And that's God. And
Yes.
then I started paying attention to my health, not only physically, but my mental health. And I just saw how important that was. And that's when I started to write my book, because I didn't want anybody to have to go through what I went through. It was so
Yes.
painful. I mean, I had a great job. I was making a lot of money. I had friends all over the country, all over the world. I was attending all kinds of sports events. I was living life large,
Mm.
but inside things were festering, and I was not a happy camper. But I was keeping it to myself. I would always tell people everything's great, you know, and
Yes.
that's something that I speak to quite a bit, is about man's masculinity.
Mm.
And even though I had studied masculinity and knew intellectually what it was about, I was not practicing it, because my
Mm.
masculinity norms were so strong from my father and the media that I had to be like Superman, like Clint Eastwood. And I would never admit that something was wrong. And I
Mm.
would just, suck it up, be tough, I'll handle it on my own,
Mm.
until I finally got to that psychiatrist where I just laid everything out and he
Yes.
properly diagnosed me, and I got on the right path. So that's the basis of my story. And it's gotten me on this path that I'm on today to help others, especially men, with their mental
Mm.
health and their masculinity, so that they can have happy and healthy relationships.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that with me. I was going through your article on LinkedIn, which was titled, or which is titled "Life in a Bong," and you talked about your addiction to marijuana. So, can you share with me how you are able to overcome this addiction at the end? How are you able to finally let go of this addiction to marijuana?
Well, my family suggested that I start attending 12-step meetings.
Mm.
So I did. And I was lucky enough in the first week to ask a guy to sponsor me and to
Mm.
take me through the program, and somebody that I could talk to on a regular basis. And he helped guide me through this program. And I went to a lot of 12-step meetings, sometimes 3 times a day.
Mm.
And I had to start my life over from the beginning, because
Mm.
I didn't have any money. I didn't have a place to live. Um, I got divorced. My wife took the car. Um, and it was very difficult for me to get work at the beginning.
Mm.
So slowly, slowly, I just kept working this program, which I I have so much love for the program that I'm in, the 12-step program, because it has given me a way of life, a way of living, a path to live on that includes being honest with myself and honest with others every day,
Yes.
and,
Mm.
and,
Mm.
a, and a way to take a look at myself in a way of self-discovery,
Mm.
to not only look back at my entire life and see where my behavior was off track, but also on a daily basis. At the end of the day, take inventory, take a look at what worked for me today and what didn't work. And
Yes.
sometimes, when I get on the phone with my bank or the phone company, and the service is like, sometimes I'm waiting for hours and hours just to talk to somebody.
Mm.
And, I lose my cool. And that's the kind of behavior that I need to make note of, and ask, you know, my higher power, the creator, to help guide me so that I don't do those behaviors anymore, because I really
Mm.
don't want to do that. It's a
Yes.
knee jerk reaction. I probably learned it from my mother and father, and thought it was acceptable. But I have to, it's hard for me on my own to get rid of these behaviors. So I have to ask my creator for help and guide me down the right path. And that's been my savior, is being around other men who have similar issues in drugs and alcohol. And, we get together on a regular basis. There's a Monday through Friday daily meeting. There's Saturday and Sunday meetings. We get together before the meetings. We have the meeting. We go out for breakfast. We call each other. We text each other. We kid each other about our soccer teams. If someone's doing good or bad, we give them grief. I got a friend who's a Liverpool fan, and I'm a Manchester United fan, so we never agree on anything. But we're best of friends. We love each other. So
Yes.
That's what makes life really special. And every day I feel like I'm closer and closer to my authentic self, who I've meant to be. I've always wanted to help others, but I didn't know what it looked like. And I had to go down the black hole of life in order to understand who I really was and why, God put me on this earth.
Yes.
And I'm very happy now.
Oh, that's great. That's beautiful. And I understand much better what you wrote in your article on medium.com, where you wrote that I'm not afraid to ask for help. It's a sign of strength, not weakness. And now from your story, I can see how, asking for help, going for this 12-step program, helped you to come out of or overcome that addiction, and also gain a community, a healthy community that makes you even know the reason why you're alive and makes you a better person today. That's beautiful. That's a wonderful lesson. That's great.
Yeah, and it's a big problem in the world. I mean, look at what's going on in the world. There are shootings. There are people who are abusing alcohol and drugs and pills. Domestic violence, there's hate crimes, there's all kinds of just terrible behavior. And this is what happens when people have mental health issues and they don't pay attention to them, and they think that they can handle it on their own, and it goes unchecked. And what happens is, because it goes unchecked, they start using, just like myself, alcohol, pills, violence, rape, sometimes suicide, to numb themselves so that they don't have to feel those feelings.
Yes.
And this is the underlying cause of what's going on in our world today. And, there's cause and effect. The effect is, drinking and drugging and hate crimes and violence and fighting and shooting. But the cause is underneath all of that, is all of these mental health issues, which I term it mental performance issues, because mental health has a stigma attached to it. For me personally, when I think mental health, I think about mental retardation. And it's a very negative connotation. When really we all have mental performance, and we have to take a look at that mental performance on a regular basis, just like going to the doctor and getting a physical every year. Why not get a mental performance checkup to see what's going on inside our brain? And that's the problem. If we break our arm or leg, we can see that we are not physically fit and that we have to go to the doctor. But if inside your head you have something wrong and you feel it, but you can't see it. And if you can't see it, you're like, no big deal. I'll take care of it. It'll work out over time. Well, there's nothing further from the truth. And I'm proof of that, because I was ruining my life for 41 years because I never got a true, proper diagnosis of my mental health issue, which was severe depressive disorder that's reoccurring. And then I got a remedy for it.
Yeah.
And this is my message to men, is that, hey, the sooner you get help with any health issues, the healthier you're going to be, the happier you're going to be. When it comes to mental health, mental performance issues, it affects relationships. You hear about men today and they term it toxic masculinity.
Exactly.
Guys who talk over women, guys whose ego are so big when they're with a woman, they just want to tell them how great they are. When, a woman she wants to express to the man who she is and what's going on with her. And she doesn't want him to fix her. She doesn't want to hear that much about how grandiose he thinks he is, how much money he has, how many cars he has, how many friends he has. The woman, she's in her own world. She's looking for somebody to listen to her and to empathize with her and to let her know that she's okay, just as she is. And I always talk about men needing to understand their role in masculinity is to create a safe environment for a woman to be exactly who she is, whatever that is, and to just listen and empathize and care and be of service to that woman. And that's when the two can communicate. And, the man's got to zip it up about his ego and how strong he is and how great he is and how great his cars are, and listen to what this woman has to say and start a conversation so that both can learn from each other. One of the benefits of my sobriety is I had a woman come into my life who says she loves me. And I had plenty of women that were interested in me when I was acting out with marijuana, but I couldn't show up in the relationship because I was not present. I had these curtains around me, which were the marijuana smoke. And women wanted to go deeper in the relationship, and I couldn't understand. I couldn't understand the communication cues to understand, what I needed to do. And that was sad. But now, for 9 years, that's moved away, and I'm able to be present. I'm able to be myself. I don't care what people think about what I say, because it's the truth. They can say what they want to say. They can criticize. I don't care. I've lived it. I know it. And if they think their ego is big enough that they can judge me, well, that's up to them. That's not my problem. Because I'm not God. I can't judge others. All I can do is do the best I can do.
It's so amazing that you detail all of this in your book titled "You Don't Have to Swallow Your Gun." Yeah, you put it in your personal story into this book, and this book speaks to the depression that you experienced, relationships, suicide, and how, as you said already, how toxic masculinity affects our relationship, or all relationships between men and women. How masculinity affects relationship between men and women. So, can you tell me the inspiration behind you writing this book? Why did you decide to write "You Don't Have to Swallow Your Gun"?
I'll tell you why. Couple things. Number one, after I got sober, I didn't want anybody else to have to experience what I experienced. It was painful, and I suffered terribly. I had to restart my life. Number two, I I had three friends of mine who I had over the course of a couple of years. I had coffee with them one week, like on a Wednesday.
Mm.
And on Monday, I got a phone call from another friend of ours. And he said, "Hey, did you hear the news about Jeff?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, Jeff hung himself Saturday."
Ooh.
And there's something that happens to me. I go numb for 24 to 48 hours. It takes me right off track. And I can't focus because my mind just dwells and ruminates on the fact that I was with this person a week before.
Yeah.
And I know it's not right that I put a little blame on myself, that I could have done more, but it just bothers me. It bothered me to no end. And I was writing about, depression and suicide, and I saw how masculinity is what gets in between men and getting help. The World Health Organization said before the pandemic that more than 300 million people suffer from depression in the world.
Mm.
But only half of those, 150 million, get treatment for it. And most of those are men. And that's how I saw masculinity and the norms that men grow up with, wanting to be this big, strong Clint Eastwood kind of guy, where they can handle anything, was a bunch of bullshit. And that they needed to take the mask off. We all, as men, we wear a mask, and we keep in, who we really are. And it's rare when we take the mask off and be real and tell the entire truth about who we are and what's going on. And I've learned by working with other men and being parts of men's groups that when I and others sit with other men and talk about our issues, we realize that we're not alone, that we're all facing the same issues, that we all go through the same pains and suffering, trying to make life, the best we can. But we don't often trust other men with our secrets and our feelings and our emotions. We think they'll betray us, they'll tell our friends, and we'll be called sissies or weak men. And they don't want that to get out. But if you can find a group of men that you trust and you can share all of your issues, there's a certain power that comes from that you can go to them when you have issues and you come up against a wall, against something, and you're like, God, I don't know what to do. It's freaking me out. I need some help. I talk to one friend of mine, a male friend, every night, every day. And we catch up with each other. And we often talk about work, we talk about sports, but there's always an opportunity, if we're going through something, that we can talk about it together. My buddy's father, who I knew very well, passed away about a month ago. And, I was there for him. I told him, hey, you want me to come to the memorial service? Do you want to talk? You want me to come to where you live? Whatever it is, and that's the power of men being together, is that they can help support each other to be the best version of themselves. And that's what I'm trying to be. And that's what I want to share with other men, is it's possible to work every day on what you need to work on. What's working, keep doing that. But what's not working, and what you need to do to help get over those barriers and
Yeah.
become the best version of yourself that you can be.
Yes. So far, what I've learned now is that, we have to take off that mask as men, be more vulnerable. And also we need to understand the power in, community, like men supporting men, being able to speak with each other about our situations without having a fear of being judged or being called sissies, for example. So are there like some other ways or advice or, tips that you could give us to avoid, toxic masculinity?
Well, the first thing is what I just mentioned, that men have to find other men to hang out with. A lot of times men, they want to be with women. And like I said, their ego, when they're with a woman, they start dumping all their garbage on a woman. First off, a woman can't relate to what a man is going through. She's a woman. She's not a man. And a woman doesn't want to hear his problems. She wants him to listen to her and listen to what's going on in her life. That's the difference between men and women. Women are emotive, they're emotional. They talk about their issues with their female friends, and they get power from that. And this is what men need to do is come together in that, trying to get more male friends and talk about real issues and be really honest.
Yeah.
The other thing is, like I said, we all should be going to a primary care physician on an annual basis, at least an annual basis, and getting a physical to find out what's going on with our physical health. But we also can ask our doctor for a referral to a psychologist, a psychiatrist, anybody that can help explore what's going on inside a man's mind to make sure that it's healthy. And if he needs help, to get the help that he needs. And there's many programs that can be put together for a man to get help. Yes, he can talk to other men. He can take medication. He can go to counseling. He can pray, meditate, journal, 12-step programs. One of the things that I think is important for being a masculine man is having a spiritual connection, whatever that is. There's a million ways to connect spiritually. Some people choose Buddhism. Some people go to church. Some people it's God. Some people it's 12-step programs. Whatever it is, a man needs to have that grounding to quiet the mind so that he can hear what the Creator is telling him, what the next logical step in his life should be.
Yes.
And it's very tough for a man to sit still. But that's when the messages are available. I've heard that all of our messages, all of our answers are all around us. And that we just have to plug into the right channel, like on a radio station. You just got to tune it to the right channel to get that message. But so many times we're busy with the computer, social media, TV, going out to eat, going out to drink, exercising, got all this stuff. But we're not paying attention, spend some time with ourselves to see what's really going on.
Yeah, inside. Yes. Wow, that's so beautiful. Like, we have to spend time to really discover ourselves and know who we are. Yes.
Self-discovery. Yeah, it's I have to do it every day. If I don't, that's when, I start going at about 90 miles per hour over the speed limit of life.
Yeah.
And I'm just starting, one thing after another, blah, 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 blah. And the next thing I know, I'm blowing up at somebody and I'm making mistakes. And then, I become down on myself. I get depressed. And, I've got to balance myself. I have to force myself to walk away from the computer on a regular basis throughout the day, to take a time out, to sit down, lay down, be still, go for a walk, and get back to myself.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, sometimes I sit down in the computer at 8 a.m. and the next thing I know, it's 6 p.m. and I'm frazzled. I'm like a, piece of garbage because I didn't take time out.
Yes. Yeah. So we have to learn to take time out, learn to program yourself and space things out, and don't overburden yourself with a lot of work or stress and things like that. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so you host a podcast called Time Out for Mental Health, and I think this is a appropriate time to talk about it because you talk about taking time out in your your daily schedule. So can you tell me more about Time Out for Mental Health and what are listeners supposed to expect from it?
Yeah, after I wrote the book and I decided that I wanted to do a podcast, and I've got we've done about 35 podcasts. It's available all over the world on Apple and Spotify and every place else. And there's a double meaning. Time out, meaning just what we talked about, taking the time to focus on your mental health and yourself. And also, I talk to a lot of sports figures and thought leaders. And I've had guys from National Football League or MMA fighters on to talk about their experiences and where mental health fits in, to let people know that it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to talk about this. And, there are other people who have gone through struggles just like myself. And the reason they got better was because they reached out and asked for help. Even when they were this close to death, they found something to move them in the right direction. And so we talk to people about their depression experience, their experience with suicide, or people in their family who committed suicide, and masculinity and how important masculinity is, to have healthy masculinity, and practice that on a regular basis so that men can have happier and healthier relationships, not only at home, but at work.
Yeah. Yes. Wow, that's beautiful. So, like, for example, if there's someone out there who is experiencing depression, anxiety, or suicidal thoughts, what advice will you give such a person at this moment or phase of his or her life?
Well, personally, I'm available 24/7. Anybody can email me, hit my website, call me. All of my information is on my website, timkrass.com. TIM is Mary, KRASS.com. But the first stop should be the primary care physician. And take the mask off and be honest and tell them exactly what's going on. Your primary care physician will either take care of you right there or refer you to another specialist who can help your situation and help to improve your health, your mental health, where your primary care physician's mainly focused on your physical health. But more and more, we're seeing more people getting help with their mental health. And like I said, 150 million people in the world don't get help with depression. That's a big problem. That's a big number. People need to realize it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah. Yes. And how can friends and family of such affected person, help in this situation? Like, for example, if someone comes to me, open up to me, asks me a question or asks for help, how would you advise me to stand out or stand up for that person at that moment to help that person effectively to come out of whatever difficulties that they're having?
Well, we all ask each other, hey, how's it going? And everybody's
Mm,
knee jerk reaction is, oh, it's great. Everything's fine. Well,
mm,
that's really not the truth. And after they go through that scenario, then you have to say, okay, now tell me what's really going on. How do you feel? Are you feeling any angst, any anger, any issues, any problems?
mm,
Tell me about it. And then just urge them to call their primary care physician and schedule an appointment so that
mm,
they can tell them exactly what's going on and be honest. I learned to be honest with myself and be honest with others. And that's the only
mm.
way I can be my authentic self. So,
Yeah.
very important.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for everything you've been able to, share with me today. And thank you so much for, sharing your personal story, this dramatic story that experience that you had with other people to help them to overcome their depression, overcome their suicidal thoughts or, whatever they are going through. So if there's anything else you would love to tell someone out there that we've not been able to discuss, what would that have been? Like if, for example, if there was something you could have told your 20-year-old self, for example, what would that have been?
It would be being honest with myself and others
Mm,
and trusting myself and trusting in my creator.
mm,
And, you know, just I don't need extra food. I don't need extra stimulants. I don't
mm,
need drugs or alcohol.
mm,
I'm so much happier without it. I
mm.
feel like a real person.
Thank you so much, Tim. I really appreciate your time and I appreciate everything you shared with me. All your information and the link to your website will be placed in the show notes of this episode. So I encourage everyone to, copy the link, click on the link, get across to you, listen to the podcast, and be blessed by everything that you do and offer to the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Toby. It was great spending time with you. Anytime, let's keep in touch. We can help each other.
Yes, I believe that. I believe that.
Wow, you made it to the very end of this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I'm grateful for your time, your love, and your contributions. Subscribe, like, review, and share this podcast. God bless you. Bye. Bye.